Okay, we're live. So over to you, Ian. And I'm gonna
Awesome. Thank
excuse
you,
myself.
Jeremy, for
Yeah,
setting us up.
absolutely. Have fun, everyone.
And welcome to the e-NABLE education meeting. I'm joined by Rick, John, Nush, and Sarah. And we're going to talk about some of the e-NABLE education efforts, and maybe some other new chapters will join us. I know we invited a couple. But just to start off, how's everyone doing this Friday in October?
It's nice in Rochester. Sun is shining. This is my second hour of e-NABLE, third hour of e-NABLE meetings today. But I'm doing good. I met Nish for the first time, so that's nice.
Excellent. Glad you're talking. And we could go around the room maybe a little, just to hear about what people are working on. And Nish, I'm very excited because I know I haven't heard about how your interviews are going. And Rick, it looked like you were holding up a cool print a second ago.
Oh, that was because you said you wanted your own hand. This is my hand. It even has my fingerprints, and we use this to make.
Very cool.
And then we cut the fingers off in order to simulate whatever might be wrong with that individual, and then we glue them back on if we can. But we use these to build dummies for 3D scan dummies to make sockets.
Super cool. I'm curious, what technology or what vendor do you use for the 3D scanning?
You know, we have a lot of very high-end scanners, but we always tend to come back to the LiDAR. And the reason we do that is because if you have a really good phone with LiDAR on it, and it has the proper number of lenses and such, the scans are awesome. They really are, and they don't scare the kids. You know, and it's hard to take a scan of a 3-year-old when he's thrashing about.
Yeah, totally.
But the LiDAR does a pretty good job of making up for that. And I hate to say it's good enough, but it really is. It has done a very good job for us.
So you mean that the time of flight LiDAR sensor on an iPhone?
Yeah, we're using Android and iPhones.
Yeah,
and
super cool.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're using all the above. The Android doesn't do quite as well because it doesn't have the processing power, say, that an iPad 4 Gen 4 and above have. With the Atom chip, it's much better, smoother. You don't have the leakage, that you'll see in some of the LiDAR done with Androids. But we've been super impressed with. If you ever would like, I would be happy to send you some.
Yeah, I'd love to see, and also which app you're using, because there's so many apps to try out.
We do everything that's free, so we'd be happy to share with you what we use.
Cool.
We don't have any budget, so whatever we do is free.
Cool. Yeah, we use a lot of the RTEC scanners and some of the Faro systems, which are just crazy high end. But again, it's all strobe based or laser based, so it's hard to get someone to stay still. And we are trying out more of the like Scaniverse apps for the LiDAR sensors, getting mixed results. But it seems like hand scale is kind of like optimum scale, right? Because like not too big, not too small.
We have some stuff, if you like, we could share with you. For instance, one of the things that's difficult is when you're building a skin, when you're doing overlays and skins and sockets. We now have a Blender plugin that does it for you.
Super cool.
And it just basically makes the socket. It's just super easy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'd love, maybe we could do a whole topic sometime about just 3D scanning for fitting e-NABLE devices. That's a fascinating topic for the customization side.
Well, we're happy to share with whatever we have with you, but we've got some pretty high-end scanners, but man, I tell you, they just cause us so many problems, and we have one that we actually have to connect to the PC wirelessly, and that one just leaves tons. It's just Swiss cheese. You always have to take 5 or 4. It never works really well, but the LiDAR has just been awesome. And I'll send you. We'll figure out something. I'll send you a bunch of scans you can play with.
Yeah, that'd be super fun. I love the RTEC systems we use a lot, and we do a ton of photogrammetry at different scales too.
That's the same thing I think they're using at here at the University of Florida, and also I'm trying to think of the name of the hangar clinic.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, because they invited me down there to the hangar clinic to talk to them, and they've got some major scanners, but I'm not really sure they were doing a better job than we were doing.
Yep.
With wigglers.
Yep.
You know,
Totally.
feel.
You know, the photogrammetry stuff has come a long way, even in the last 6 to 18 months. The
Yeah.
new versions of Agisoft's Metashape are doing such, like our historical data is rendering better on the new software.
Mhm.
And the big change last year was all these moves Epic Games have been making acquiring these platforms. Sketchfab was acquired by Epic Games,
Right.
and Reality Capture was acquired by Epic Games. And Reality Capture used to be $5,000 per seat. Now
Yep.
it's free for education. So we were never going to be able to afford that. But now we got a license pack from them, and it requires an NVIDIA GPU, but the rendering is like 10 times faster.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's what makes it difficult for a lot of the laptops. They just don't have the GPU.
Yeah.
And to drag around a huge desktop, it doesn't make sense. So portability has been a big deal for us because they're also doing animals.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not like you can say stop it. You know, we used to have to actually knock them out, and now we don't. But we're doing it now where we don't have to knock them out. We're getting really good scans.
There's a fast projection that's moving around like a pretty quick movement.
It's pretty quick. Yeah,
Very cool.
If you have a sturdy enough processor in your phone, the newer iPhones and the newer iPad Gen 4 and above, unbelievable. I was very impressed.
Cool. Well, I'd love to talk more in depth about that. But I thought we could also hear a little bit from Nush about how your research is going, or where your direction. So for those who are just joining us, maybe watching the stream too, who don't know, Nush is a current MBA student at Brandeis's Heller School for Social Policy and Development, and is looking at this big complexity of e-NABLE designs and doing some sort of like design thinking, starting from empathy and research, how we can better sort out the designs, which will end up on the NIH's National Institute for Health's 3D print exchange. And the deliverable there is sort of like a metadata schema of how do we all think about the hands? Because I know all of us that work with them sort of classify them differently in our heads, but we could do a better job making that explicit and searchable. So Nush, how is your project going?
Sorry, the fan out of the room is sounding, but it's the project's going great so far. I've had the opportunity to speak with few folks here on that you recommended, and I was just talking to John today about the process flow and so forth. So far, it's so good. In so doing, I've been spending some time in the lab learning how to build hands and so forth. So it's coming together well, and I'm grateful for everybody who has taken the time to speak with me, to give me kind of like more inside knowledge of process flow and design and so forth. And I'm very grateful for that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you got to spend some time with John.
Yeah, we did just an hour ago, and actually, we reviewed our page on the hub. We found several things, Ian, that I'll share with you, since Noosh didn't, but we wouldn't have uncovered them if not for Noosh. One is when he joined the hub, it just said "Welcome to the hub." New members to the hub, and Sarah, this is for your benefit also, because this is the kind of thing we're going to follow up on. Once someone has joined the hub, the first thing they should do is direct them to the new members space. Explain that there are a number of spaces, and for new members, the best place to start is within the new member space. It's obvious after the fact, but it's not obvious to a new member. So that was one thing. Then we looked at the page that helps you decide which design. And it's in serious need of update. So we went over the updates, but it also led me to realize that there may be a good way of organizing the device information. And I will share my screen if I can, just to show you the table that we mocked up. But Ian, do you have the rights to give me screen sharing
Oh,
abilities?
sorry. Yes, I do. One moment. There you go.
Yeah. So, it seems to me that there are, and we have, of course, diagrams that show partial hand and at-risk amputation and above wrist but below elbow and at or above elbow. And of course, each of those demands a different device. Then there are actually a variety of actuation methods, which helps sort it out. So the classic is here in this first set, right? The Phoenix hand and there, it seems to me, and Rick, your input on this in particular, I think these are sort of the go-to solutions these days. The Phoenix, because it's easy to print and it's sort of the standard. The Kinetic, because it's a little more complicated, substantially more complicated, but it's quite beautiful. For at-risk, obviously you're not going to have wrist power, but we do have elbow power and we have gripper hands. And for that matter, we also have a moto grip, which may or may not be an oddity, but there it is. Below elbow, we came up with these suggestions. But by the way, I see someone has already added the gripper claw rule, which is a good point. You need the gripper claw rule because that includes the arm socket, whereas the gripper plugs into, well, I'm not clear about this, but we don't have to solve all these problems. The real point is, I think this framework made sense to me. And so I have two questions. One is, does the framework make sense? And secondly, are these the right recommendations for people who actually want to make a real device for a real person?
That's a great question, John, and I don't actually know the answer anymore. We've built some Phoenix hands, which seemed like a good way to learn the platform, but I don't know if it's the most practical. And I have been hearing from other groups that they really like the Kinetic hand. That's sort of the preferred model these days.
Rick, do you have any comments about this?
I'm a huge fan also. I hate to leave it out of the ARX. The ARX hand is nice because you can fuse the ARX right to the Kwawu very easily, and it makes for it's a very nice combination. The only downside is the thumb is not the thumb is passive. Other than that, it's a super design, and it doesn't require any TPU whatsoever. Super strong, super fast. We've built quite a few of them.
I'm not familiar with this design, so
No,
that's why we have these conversations.
I think I got one on the shelf
I
here.
just
Hold
put a
on.
link in the chat from a Hackaday site where you could see what it looks like.
Right.
Wait a minute, I'll go grab one for you.
This is cool. I have to build some of these new models. I think Nish and I, one of our next steps is to build some of these ones that we haven't made in our labs before. Oh, that looks great.
Yeah, this is a nice hand, and it's super easy to build. I mean, you can build one of
Oh,
these.
the clutch. It has a clutch on the thumb.
Well,
Cool.
yeah, and here, wait. Let me shoot. Let me. If you don't mind, I'll give you a quickie demo.
Great.
It's super fast. I broke the string.
Back away a little bit, Rick.
Okay, I broke the string, so please forgive me for that. But the hand has. There's actually in the hand. This one is built for the Kwai arm. Kwayu. I always get it wrong.
Kwawu.
and this snaps right onto that arm. And the beauty is it's all springs, and the thumb, you know, you can move back and forth. We're going to modify the thumb on this so it's also active. But I like it. I like this build a lot. I wish I had something I could grab the string with, but
Okay.
yeah, the strings go right up these little things here, and there's actually springs inside. But it's a very solid, nice, solid build. We use this one a lot, only because of its ease of design and build. And the wrist is awesome because there's a series of the new enhancements that Jacques has built with the rotating wrist button and version 3 of the Quau. Really made a huge difference, I think. But yeah, we use this a lot. It's very underrated. The really interesting thing is if you look at the joints, this is actually filament. You stick a piece of filament into the hole, and that's what it uses to that's what it
Cool.
uses
Really?
to join.
And it has good properties?
I believe so. We've had more people say that they use the word indestructible. It's just that strong. I built mine. You can build it with TPU. I don't like the TPU builds because they're not strong enough. So this one actually has 3 springs that go in and connect. I think you can see them. Hold on.
Yes.
Yep.
And it makes it super easy because it hooks right to the bolt on the Quau arm. And I think this is probably the easiest hand I've ever printed. And a lot of it has to do, my biggest complaint is the thumb, though. It needs to be active, and I've been thinking about doing that, just going ahead and doing it. It wouldn't be that difficult.
And
But
is
I
the
like-
idea of the thumb that it can do a grasp and then it can move out of the way to let the fingers do like a hook, but it can't do a pin on top?
Correct. It's completely passive. But what's neat is it's a ball. I don't know if you can see, but it swivels on a ball.
Cool.
Yeah. And it wouldn't take a lot just to fix the second set of digits. I just didn't want to. I mean, I've got so much stuff on my bench, I hadn't gotten around to it. And people like it as it is. But it's very, very strong, easy. Anyone can build this hand. You don't really need any special printer, no TPU at all. But TPU is optional instead of the springs by putting the TPU segments in these little guys. I wouldn't do it.
Do you know this guy?
This one? It's
The
on
creator of the arcs?
It's part of the NIOP. It's part of that whole
part
thing.
of the NIOP. Well, aren't I embarrassed? Okay,
Yeah, it's in our catalog.
great.
Yeah.
This is really good for Anush to see about the complexity. There's too many. I haven't seen this before either. And it's like really cool. I love the shiftable thumb.
Yeah, that was a big deal because you can move it out of the way. The downside, though, is if they want to throw a ball or something, you don't have the thumb to do that. But other than that, it's a beautiful design, and it can be fixed very easily just by tunneling, making one tunnel and cutting out the segments just like the fingers. It wouldn't be a big deal. I just haven't gotten around to it because people like it as is. But yeah, and it's called actually there's a bionic version as well, but they didn't release it yet. But we made this bionic on 2 occasions, and it did very well. We used
Very
one
cool.
one actuator, and we put the actuator in the cuff, and we drove it with one thread, and it responded super well, super fast. I wished I had something I could grab this string with because it's so short I broke it off. Wait a minute, I'm gonna go grab one.
And that's cool. It looks like it requires very little hardware other than those springs, maybe.
2 springs and just the regular screws. And John has always wanted to see my lab, so yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got a thermostat here. Hold on. Let me see if this will grab it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. So super fast though.
Interesting. And move the thumb so that it intersects with the fingers, if you would.
Sure. Oh, that was. This is in the way, out of the way.
Got it.
So in the way would look like this. And then you can move it, of course, out of the way, so it'll go all the way around to the palm.
And what is the tendon, if you will, the ligament that runs up through the finger is just
100,
filament?
150, no, it's 150-pound fishing line is what we use.
So you did mention that filament was used for something to run up the finger.
The filament, you see the joints?
It's
That's
the
actually,
hinge.
yeah, that's actually a
Yep.
piece of filament, which is genius because it's already round, it fits right in, and it's super strong. And you just slide the filament in the hole, and you've never broken one. And actually, this string is 150 pounds. We broke it testing the hand. The hand didn't give. One of the recipients was hanging from it.
Wow.
Now, this is part of the NIOP collection. Was this one designed by Nate Monroe?
I don't know if he designed it or not, but he was pushing it. And he called me. He and I were talking because I told him I was going to put it, I really, really like the Kawau. I never say it right. I really like the arm because the way it's designed, it's just so easy to make alterations. And it's a beautiful, beautiful design. As a matter of fact, I think I have the socket for this out here. I don't think I sent it. I think it came back. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't want to make you sick walking you around here like this. But oh yeah, here it is. So what we did is we had this, and it snapped right onto this guy.
Cool.
And it worked. It worked just fine. I misled you. Sorry. It's this one.
Your prints are really nice looking. I wonder, while you're in your lab, could you show us what machines you're using? That might be interesting for other folks who watch us later to see too.
Sure. It's actually a Dremel did this one.
Oh yeah.
This is a 3D45 did this one. We also have some Deltas, but the Dremel, the reason I love the Dremel is because it's just an amazing printer. It's just the most foolproof printer we've ever used. I mean, if we start 3 printers, this one will be the only one that won't get a wreck ever. And I think the biggest thing about the 3D45 is when you put, how much time you spend with filament, getting the speeds, the plate, how hot, how fast. Well, the 3D45 reads a code on the spool and pre-programs it. So when you put a spool of filament in, the printer reads it and says, and does all the setup.
I'm looking for the model to put a link in.
Yeah, it's a Dremel 3D45. It's an astonishing machine, and every time they give us a new microcode, it's just 100 times better. And we also put a lot of our stuff on these rings. This is all on NFC, and we program the printers with these as well. So
Oh, cool.
sometimes we get third-party filament, and once we get the settings right, I will put the settings on this ring on an NFS because that's what it reads. And this one can actually do 6 different setups, 4 on this side, 1 on this side, 1 on this side, and it has 256 gig of storage. And you just wear the ring, and then when you go in, you touch the thing, and then off it comes.
Can you
Wow,
slow
that's
down for a
cool.
minute? What the hell
So
are
you're
you
not chipping
showing
the
us here?
filament. So you're
Huh?
doing printer settings, not on the filament chip, but on a wearable chip, so you can use non-chipped spools.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Super cool.
Yeah. Because, you know, it takes a while to get it right, as you know. You buy a new brand, right? Like, for instance, TPU. Well, they don't make TPU for the Dremel 3D45. So we bought TPU, and it takes us quite a while to get it right. Once we get it right, we program it on the ring.
Cool.
Ian, are you familiar with that ring?
So the ring has a temperature and speed, feeds and speeds for the material.
It's NFC. There's 6 NFC chips in here.
What's NFC chip?
Basically what it is you know, like when you have a card, you walk up, or like on your credit card, and you touch your credit card for Apple Pay. That's an NFC chip. This has, we program our own NFC chips, right? And then we put information on the NFC chip, so you always have it with you. So like I could walk up to your phone, touch the back of your phone, and it would bring up, say, a web page.
Okay, slow down, please. I can't be the only person who is just catching up here. Let me speak. Let me speak. I understand that there's a ring with NFC chips, and I understand that NFC chips communicate. Apparently, the Dremel knows how to read NFC chips,
Yes.
and you can, in fact, get the Dremel to adopt a whole set of settings just by tapping it with the right NFC chip.
Yes, you kind of have to lie to it because Dremel doesn't want you. They will actually tell you that they will void your warranty if you don't use their, if you don't use their filament. But everyone does it. But it's so hard to remember or put it on a yellow card or something. We just do it this way because we forget.
That's cool. And then you could have you slice a file once, and then you can produce it in different materials based on what you have loaded.
You're absolutely right. The Dremel completely ignores what you send it from the perspective of 3D Simplify. I'm sorry, Simplify 3D. So it tends to ignore that and uses its own settings unless you override it not to do that. So you can override settings, and that way you build something once, and when you change filaments, it knows if you're using Dremel filaments, it knows. If you're not, you store it on an NFC, and then you let it read your NFC with tried and true settings that you have gone through and done your groundwork with.
That's really interesting. And how many slicer variables does it allow you to adjust?
All of them.
Cool.
For the most part, all of them. You have the ability to template it. It took us a while to dissect that. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just the temperature of the plate, the speed, the velocity of the filament. Sometimes it's not a lot. Sometimes it's a bunch. It depends on really on Dremel, whatever they come out with, and then every time they come out with a new firmware upgrade, it's usually, we've not had it not be backward compatible because they're not going to screw you on all the filament that's sitting in Amazon somewhere. But it saves us time because, as you know, setting those things can be horrible. You're 3/4 of the way through, and now you have this thing that looks like a spaghetti string mess. Our other printers that do not have this can't compete because getting all of those variables is extremely difficult. When you're just doing a print for the first time and you haven't done any experimentation, it's so nice to have all those variables set for you. That's why we use Dremel. The first time, we will always use Dremel filament because it's pre-programmed. And as soon as you put the spool in, the printer knows what's in there.
Very cool. No, and that's really exciting. I didn't know that there were ways to circumvent shipped filament systems. Like back in the day, the Da Vinci printer was a closed ecosystem, and a lot of people hacked it just to remove that chip. But I haven't seen anybody making their own chips to in-house have profiles for different materials. That's really cool.
We do the same thing with our laser printers, quite frankly, and our Epson printers, because we do a lot of dye sublimation. And it's the same problem. It's the exact same problem. If you use someone else's inks, what they do now, Epson and a lot of other companies, I don't want to just pick on them, they don't really use it for the settings. They use it so you can't refill with other people's ink. And so we just blast the NFC and set it back to 0 pages, put whatever ink we want in it, and then we go.
Cool. Very cool. Parallel from 2D to 3D methodology on consumables. Very cool.
Well, you can buy we buy like 3 bottles of dye sub for $12. Well, we pay $50 for one cartridge at Office Depot. So it's a no-brainer,
We have a Z-Core 250, the powder-based binder jet machine, and the most expensive part of that is the HP inkjet cartridge that colors the print.
Actually, you can do the same thing. Cosmos sells it for that printer, and you can buy bottles of this stuff for pennies on the dollar. It's cheap, and all you need is a syringe kit, which they will supply. And I think for $15 or $20, they'll sell you the zapper. It'll wipe out the NFC chip, but you can't program it. It just sets everything back to 0.
Very cool. I've always been afraid to use those syringe refill kits, but this gives me hope that that's possible.
Well, you want to get good ink. It's your printer. You don't want to ruin it. But I think the ink's better quality than well, you can't get dye sublimation ink in most. You just can't get it. So that's why we do it. We need dye sub, but we don't have the funds for a dye sub printer. They're very expensive. So we just took our old Epson fax machine and turned it into a dye sub printer.
And so what kind of finished products are you making with that?
We do a lot of stuff. For instance, mugs, and we don't sell anything. We give them away. Like when we're doing fundraisers and stuff. We have this one mug we do that everyone loves, and it's a color changing mug. So they hold it and it's black. It has no color. But as soon as they put something hot in it, the photo, it turns white, and then you can see the photo. And we used them at fundraisers. Everybody loved them. And we do other stuff, badges or pins or buttons. We just fundraiser stuff.
Very cool. I bet you could customize a hand too with like a cool decal on it or something.
We do. As a matter of fact, I've got video of that when you and I get together. We actually 3D lithophane. I have some videos where we, on each arm, we find out who the kid's hero is, and we 3D lithophane their hero right on the arm. We contact, of course, the person. It's a really cool story. I think, John, you saw what we're doing with the sonograms, because we have blind people that couldn't see their sonograms. We're making 3D babies they could hold, and they wear the necklaces. It's a lot of fun. But it's all kind of tied in.
Very cool.
We digress, but apparently that's what we do. That particular service, what? No, it's not your fault. It is your fault, but that's the brakes. I don't know. Oh, I just want to say this, digression or not. e-NABLE went through its particular explosive growth when it was doing something that was extremely telegenic at the time, right? When 3D printers and 3D printed hands and children all together were just a go-to story at least once for every community television, every local television station. Every local television station found their story and did it, and it made everybody feel good, and it brought a lot of people to e-NABLE. That moment has passed. This is the lithophane. Go ahead, and there you go.
Oh, that's cool.
And the way they look is this is one we did for someone. I could do it with any photo. We have our own process that we
But
use.
the point
with
is,
any
this is
photo.
tactile, so they can also feel it
Yeah.
if they're blind.
So the blind lady now can feel her baby. We made her one for around her neck, and she can feel her baby. And it was a big deal to her. I mean,
Well,
it
this
sounds
is,
like a gimmick, but it's a big deal.
I don't think it's a gimmick at all. I think, you know, these sonograms aren't been a gimmick for sighted people either. They're very meaningful. Here's the
Yeah.
point I want to make. One news report about the e-NABLE community making tactile sonograms for blind parents with children would, I think, go viral. And then suddenly there would be a lot of people saying, I have a sonogram picture and I'm blind, and a lot more people saying, I like that little lamp.
Yeah,
Because it's cool as a visible object as well.
it looks like a toilet paper roll, but we bought for, I think it cost us like $8, and we got this little base, and it had LED lights in it that changed. It had a
That's
little
what I was
remote,
thinking.
and we bought that for, I think in total we were out maybe $15 for the whole setup, and it was just awesome. Maybe, I mean, we're happy to show you how to do it. It's nothing hard, but we didn't even know we could do it. We were doing it on the arms, you know,
I hear
because
you.
because on the arm having your hero on that was a big deal. And so we also found that tattooing the arms like a Spider-Man or something, it really got rid of a lot of the bullying in the younger kids.
That's cool.
That was just our experience, because
Making it cool and making a like a socially like the thing the other kids want is really cool.
Yeah. we had one little girl come up to one of the little boys and say, I wished I didn't have any arms so I could have one of those. And I thought that was awesome. That, that is about as far from bullying as you can get.
That's right.
Sorry about that.
Before we run out of time, we have another little bit. I just also wanted to say hi to Sarah. I don't think we've met face to face before, although have on email. And I was just curious about like how you're doing. Give you a chance to give an update or something.
Yeah. So I will be taking over for Ben, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm a journalist and I have a background in public health and medical research. I used to be a clinical research coordinator in neurology and at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and obstetrics at Emory School of Medicine. And I met Ben in Cambodia while working on some public health research there. So I'm really excited to be here. And hopefully combining some public health and journalism and storytelling skills. And I'm hoping to sort of help to extend e-NABLE's reach as well. So
absolutely. And
yeah.
there's so many rich stories to tell from this community.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have two stories cooking right now, Sarah. We have two stories and a new storyteller. And I just want to note that the two stories, I think, are what we just talked about. I think that these tactile sonogram lamp kits is just a great do-it-yourself program, and do it for others program that we could publicize, and which would be a very good story. And we have a new Ukraine support initiative, which is also, I think, similarly timely. We're not going to make prosthetics, we're going to make thermoformable braces that will be used in the field. I'd like to think for wounded Russian as well as wounded Ukrainians. Those are, I think, two really interesting stories. They'd both be pretty good stories to share with the community, but also together, they really demonstrate that e-NABLE is more than just mechanical hands. And we might really think about that as we sort of think about the next era.
Mm-hmm. Totally, like assistive devices or democratizing technology, huge topics.
Yeah,
I know that like that lithopane thing is so cool. Every time I go to a doctor now, I always, if I get an image done, I want, now you get a DVD or something with your own data files, and then you can do some visualization with.
so is there a lithopane making service somewhere as a company?
There's that make us a produced object. I don't know, but there's a few software options that are great.
Well, I know there are, but
There is. There's actually some websites that you can upload your photo to and it'll make, however, Simplify 3D, which everyone uses anyway, one of the things people don't realize that there's actually a lithiopane builder in there. And there's like Luban is very good. Luban is.
We use Luban. I didn't know it was in Simplify. We're a Simplify shop, and I didn't know about that setting.
I know, right? But in Simplify 3D, there's actually a lithiopane builder in it.
Where is it?
I think it's in Tools, I believe. I'm on an iPad right now, but I believe it's
Wow.
in Tools. Yeah. And nobody knows about it because I've told like a dozen people, I go, really? It's in there? Yeah, and it does a beautiful job. Luban
well, so
is,
I want to make the point that for you guys, the missing link was the lithophane settings. But for the public at large, they still don't have printers. And so if the e-NABLE community, we have lots and lots of 3D printer e-NABLE members saying, I want to make something for someone. That's why I joined. We now have two, I think, big opportunities for engaging all of those people and expanding the scope of e-NABLE. So I'm sorry to say that I think I've got I have a campaign I'm going to want to get organized.
I got to show you one more thing, guys. We built this too. We found a piece of wood in the garage and we took our laser and that is cut right into the wood from a photo we found in a magazine.
Yeah. What kind of laser cutter are you running?
We're running the Epilogue, Epilogue 60 watt minis.
Yep. Yeah, we have a Helix Mini.
Yeah.
That looks great though. So you did like a raster process on contrast?
And all we did was it was in a magazine. We found it in a Smithsonian. We just took a picture of it with the phone and rasterized it and we set it at about one, I think it was one mic and then just burned it. And then you just smack it and all the parts fall out,
Yep. Super cool. And I just see in Simplify, if anyone is watching this, it is right there next to tools. There's the add-ons menu, convert image to 3D, which I've never played with, and I will now.
It does work.
And the other tool that Rick mentioned, I'm going to put a link in chat, Luban 3D, Luban 3D, low-cost software app.
We have a lifetime license.
I've been blown away by this. It's an individual developing a piece of software that is beating companies like Autodesk and SolidWorks because they don't have this feature set.
He's a nice guy too. He's a seriously nice guy. Also, if you don't mind, Ian, on the hub, I actually posted the lithophanes of the sonogram. So if you're interested, hop in and look. I did a bunch of them. So
super cool. I'm gonna look around for that.
Yeah, you're welcome to whatever's in there.
Well, this is super exciting, learning some new features and like thinking about e-NABLE as more than just open source prosthetics, but it's open source medical devices, things we can do with medical data, ways to like repair not just people, but access. Like I'm really excited about
even if they're not
idea.
hands, right?
Yeah. Assistive devices and accessibility writ large.
Like, okay.
Cool.
That's a tremendously good scan. One of our staff members just scanned their hand using an Artec EVA, and I don't even know if it was that smooth off of like that's a super high end scanner.
This was done with this was actually done with LiDAR.
Really tremendous result.
The reason the fingers, I cut this finger off because we were building a thing for a guy, and then I glued it back on. But what I'll do is I'll scan someone's hand, I'll make one of these, and if not, if they're close to me, I'll just make my own and I cut the fingers off that they're missing. and then I make the socket. It's just easier.
Very cool. I'm also interested too, and I bet you're into this too, on socket creation, using like TPU, like a single material, and mesh and node structures and infill to create meta materials where they're soft, and pliable where they need to be, and supportive where they need to be. I'm sure you have some insights into that software optimization.
Quite frankly, we're using Mesh Mixer.
Yeah.
Because it does such a good job, not only of helping you with, okay, you know how much material you waste just building, the infrastructure to hold up your part. Well, Mesh Mixer gets rid of all of that, and it makes threads that save, I don't know, we're saving probably about 80% of the material. Not only that, it identifies the parts you're talking about that are too thin and that are probably going to break. And until recently, we had SolidWorks, but we don't have it anymore, which did a great job for us. SolidWorks was awesome because of we were able to do simulation.
Oh yeah.
And that saved us a lot, but we couldn't afford that. They gave me a license for a year. You know what? Thank you. That was nice of them, but we couldn't afford to continue it.
I just put a link into Mesh Mixer. Definitely one of the best mesh handling tools. Can do so much. And I put another link into an app called N-Topology that does design optimization. That might be able to, help with the infill optimization to have multiple performance out of single materials. I know more and more like SolidWorks has some of that. Fusion 360 has some of that where you can do material-based simulations.
Yep.
Super exciting. Yeah, I think we need to talk about some new software workflows. We need to do some research in here.
Yeah,
And I think
Luban 3D, he's doing really interesting stuff.
He's done an amazing job. He really has. Not only that, he's got a really nice setup in Luban for breaking large prints into pieces, and then you can dovetail them together. We've had to use that on several occasions where we've had people that were just too big, and we couldn't. Our build size just wasn't big enough. We have a relatively small build size, and it allows us to break it into pieces that are manageable, right? And Luban does a very nice job of that.
Absolutely. And you can do that manually in Mesh Mixer, but it's sort of a nightmare getting all the pegs lined up and everything. And in Luban, it's drop a file in, say how many pieces.
Yeah.
And it does all the chopping up and the joinery for you.
And if you're using SCAD, if you're an SCAD user, we have a bunch of scripts for doing dovetail as well, where you can actually have SCAD do your dovetailing for you.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, gentlemen, I want to comment that Noosh, who is new to e-NABLE and not a specialist in 3D printing, his first question was, for a newcomer, how the hell do you sort of learn the basic vocabulary? A lot of what you guys have been talking about is, correct me if I'm wrong, Noosh and Sarah, but complete Greek, I would guess, to both Noosh and Sarah. And it's just worth observing that our website, which it's great for this conversation, let geeks be geeks, but if you're trying to welcome new people into the community, we have some challenges that we have to keep in mind.
No, absolutely. And there's so many like specialties in this space. No one knows all of it, right? Everybody knows a slice of things based on, and a lot of it is experientially learned. Like we have to learn these tactics to make the prototype work.
And you're going to find that everybody at e-NABLE you talk to is so nice about taking the time. They'll explain it. They'll talk at whatever level you're comfortable with. Just stop them and say, look, you're going too quick, or they're very good about it. I have not had any issues at all, with very few exceptions, working with people at e-NABLE to get things done.
And this is the whole design thing too, is like we all have such different mental paradigms of how we think about this landscape and these designs and how to fit them.
Yeah. And that's a problem in a way. Standardization, I think that John mentioned in our previous meeting, we don't standardize anything because we can't. We're too small. So everyone is a one-off to us. And that is a problem because, it's not like we can create things even in advance. So when we build something, it's the last time we'll ever build it.
But
Yep.
in the early days of e-NABLE, that's a common problem, and it's a common problem in particular when you've got pioneers who are fluent in all of these things, and they want to get a job done. They get a job done. But for e-NABLE, part of the reason people have been able to join the community, get something done, etc., is that not everything that our experts know, but a few things that our experts can, if you will, productize, become available as easy downloads or well-documented techniques like thermoforming. There was a time when thermoforming was a real novelty. Now it's sort of a standard available technique. Obviously 3D printing, etc. So that's the challenge. And Ian, I just want to alert you to the fact that every week I'm discovering that Rick is a real polymath on this stuff. I suppose you are too, but he's just
Rick, we gotta hang out more. This is really cool stuff.
Well, that's right. But for Rick, it's all in there as sort of a whole web of interconnected things that he knows about. I've had this thought before, and I'm going to say it again. There's an opportunity. Rick is in Florida near Naples. Is that right, Rick?
I'm actually right by Tampa.
Okay.
I live in the same town as 50 Legs.
Well, there you go. Okay. Anyway, there's a documentarian or something should just spend some time prospecting in Rick's presence and extracting. We need some way of sort of capturing some of these techniques that he's identified that he just uses as his one-off, solutions when he needs something for his bag of tricks. But there's a lot that would be of more general use if we could somehow pull it out. Anyway, it's always a pleasure.
Well, it's great to talk to you. And I think we should continue meeting for education, but maybe we need some sidebars on 3D scanning and print optimization. And some of these software tips are like gold.
Yeah. Like the Simplify 3D, version 4 is coming out. But,
I'm eagerly waiting.
But most people have no idea some of these little hidden, I guess you could call them, little toys that are already in there. And no one's even looked for, like the lithos. And they're nice. It does a beautiful job.
Very cool.
Well, Noosh, I urge you to talk to Ian about perhaps organizing, because I think Noosh is interested in this stuff, but I think it's all really new to him, and he's working closely with Ian. Ian, I think it might well be a good time for a fresh introduction to, e-NABLE 101, right?
That's a
and
great
if you
idea.
did a series of sessions in the e-NABLE Education Workshop and marketed them, it could become, the equivalent of an online course for people who want to sort of begin understanding. And frankly, what I learned about 3D printing and slicing and lithophanes 10 years ago clearly needs updating. So it's possible that would be a really nice project and a nice way of structuring at least some of your e-NABLE education sessions with appropriate marketing, I would add.
And a lot
Absolutely.
of these technologies also like your ability, to upgrade your printers, just to do really beautiful artwork. Like we build guitars here for disabled people. I know how that sounds. It sounds like, well, what good would that do? But they're awesome. And our disabled guys, we've got guys that have lost hands in Afghanistan and such, and they're playing. We build specialized guitars that allow them to play again.
That's so cool.
And they sound great. These things sound unbelievable.
I want to see these guitars too. All right. I love this idea. We got to do some 101 intro, and then that can go on to the extreme possibilities. What does this connect to? How far can this go?
Great.
Well, in my
Well,
mind,
we're just about at
we
time.
get people, doing this stuff. Just all they got to do is do it. It's not particularly difficult. I think they just got to know they can.
That's the technologist's disease. It's actually pretty difficult. And part of what's difficult is knowing what to do first, what to do next, and so on. If it's well structured, not your specialty, Rick. If it's well structured, it's not too difficult. If it's finding your way through a hybrid of a forest and a junkyard, it makes you crazy, right, Noosh?
Well,
Okay,
I want to be
great.
respectful of everybody's time. We're right at 2:00. This is a fascinating discussion, and I look forward to talking to all of you more. And Sarah, very nice to meet you today. I know we're going to be, we rely on Ben a lot. I know we're going to be relying on you to guide us through some of this world.
Sarah, if you don't mind, I'd like your phone number.
Yes.
So I'm going to stay on the line for a minute just so that we can